my mistake there. So we don't know where they're going, and we don't know what the reason was that all those units were staging in that Chinatown parking lot. There are so many unanswered questions. We're not getting much information from the different agencies that are involved here. We're trying to find out what we can from the FBI, from HHS, or not HHS, DHS, excuse me, the Department of Homeland Security. And this all comes in the wake of those agencies all staging in that parking lot in Chinatown, and a crowd of people gathering outside, and then a huge set of reinforcements that showed up to, we presume, move those people out. The people who were gathered on the sidewalk outside of the parking lot. They weren't intruding on the parking lot. From what we could tell, no one was doing anything unlawful on the sidewalk. That may, we're trying to find out whether that in fact is true, but we couldn't see anything of any projectiles, for example, being thrown or anything. And people just hanging out outside the parking lot and trying to document or witness what was going on. And so then all those folks got moved out by this reinforcement group. Where are we now?
I should mention, Mark, I should mention, when that happened, prior to those reinforcements arriving and pushing the crowd off of the sidewalk, they did put out a call for help to LAPD, claiming that they were being, quote-unquote, surrounded by a crowd. Now, you saw what we saw. There wasn't much surrounding going on. There was maybe a few dozen people on the curb basically watching what was going on in the parking lot. That's the best way I would describe it. However, a call did go out to LAPD. LAPD declined to come out here. They said they had no intention of coming out here. We heard that firsthand. And then within minutes, we saw about several dozen federal agents, uniformed officers, hanging onto those armored vehicles, roll in, and then begin the pushing and the shoving. So just to kind of recount how that all played out, it was also something I don't ever recall seeing.
Right. It's just strange on so many levels that if some major operation was happening, if they were going to stage for it, to do it out in the open just makes no sense. Agencies conduct raids all the time. They don't usually place their vehicles, a bunch of them, out in the open in the early and middle of the evening, where they can be seen and they arouse attention. That's just it's a very strange tactic, or if you want to call it that, a strange thing that was done here, because they caught a lot of attention and a crowd gathered. So if they were planning an additional raid, it tipped off the public pretty quickly that was going to happen. We certainly got wind of it very quickly. We've been following this. You've been over this for hours, right?
Yeah, we showed up about an hour and a half ago, and I was pretty surprised because, as you mentioned, that is not usual to stage like that out in the open. When we arrived, there were so many agents and so many resources there that we were speculating that, well, maybe this is just, I mean, it's as unorthodox as it may be, maybe this was a staging area for a larger operation, and then they would start to splinter off, and perhaps that's what we're seeing here. Maybe this is one of several contingents that are now going to start parading out of that parking lot and go executing warrants or whatever orders they have been given. However, it did not appear that that entire group of officers were about to, participate in something, right there. That seemed like just too many resources in one place at one time. But as you mentioned, they have a lot of property at their disposal downtown. I mean, the federal campus on Wilshire in West LA is even bigger, with a huge parking lot if you were to start staging. We've seen a number of operations over the years, staged right there. I immediately think about, the protest on the UCLA campus last year, where CHP was getting ready to break up the Palestinian encampment. If you remember, there were hundreds of CHP officers that were taking place in that raid to get rid of the encampment, and it all took place on the federal campus because that is such a secure parking lot and a secure staging area for law enforcement. It all happened right there on the federal campus. So we just are not seeing that tonight. They showed up on a random parking lot in the middle of Chinatown, attracting all kinds of attention, and they are clearly on a mission.
Yeah, a mission that we cannot really comprehend right now. And I want to point out again, if they're trying to go out and arrest a large number of people, I haven't seen in this convoy of, I don't know, maybe 10 cars or so, 10 vehicles, including the Bearcat, I haven't seen any of the white vans that they have been using to scoop up larger numbers of people and put them into the backs of those white vans. They've got some SUVs here, they've got a pickup truck, and the Bearcat. And so I'm not sure exactly, it's hard to figure out what it is they're planning and what they're doing, or if they're just simply heading to another location tonight. There's so many unanswered questions here, including if people were doing nothing other than standing on the sidewalk and perhaps hurling insults or whatever. Hurling insults is not illegal. Hurling objects is. We don't know if people were conducting any sort of illegal activity on that sidewalk before they were cleared out. But, you know, if it's a peaceful protest, then their law enforcement cannot constitutionally clear them out. If they're not doing anything illegal, you are allowed to gather. First Amendment says you can. And as federal agents, their job is to uphold the law. So we have a lot of questions about how this came to pass and what was the reason for that. And if in fact they were being attacked in some way or felt unsafe by a reasonable standard, what that standard is and what facts led to their request for help from the local agencies and what the local agencies did in response, which was nothing, according to what you're hearing. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's exactly right. And you know, now we're starting to just kind of get your bearings here. We're well into South LA, passing 90th Street, so southbound on the Harbor Freeway. And the unfortunate part is that we are going to be pulling off of here relatively soon because we're starting to run low on fuel. So unfortunately, we won't actually see the resolution, and I dread that, unfortunately, but that appears to be the case because this particular contingent, which started in Chinatown, has made their way all the way down now almost to the 105 freeway, and where they go from here is anybody's guess. But I must say that just from the videos that I have seen over the past couple of months from different parts of the country, you know, these raids contain a variety of different vehicles. Some of them include the big white vans that you mentioned, but many of them are just simple SUVs, many times unmarked, very inconspicuous SUVs that will just do the work of taking one or two or three people or maybe a small family into custody. We've seen that happening over and over again now, so we're starting to kind of see how these have played out. I just don't think we've ever seen it as up close as we have today here in Los Angeles.
Right. Okay. Well, it has been a chaotic day. A number of raids carried out by ICE targeting work sites of a clothing manufacturer, Home Depot, and different locations here. They took in somewhere around 40 people. Among them, notably, was a union leader, a leader of the Service Employees International Union, the local here. He was taken into custody. He was injured, taken to the hospital first, and is still in custody as tonight, as far as we know. But this has been a day of confrontation and some chaos as people respond to these raids that have been conducted by ICE. The original mission, as described by the President of the United States and the Attorney General, is that they were going after people who were here illegally, who were committing crimes, people who were undocumented and were committing crimes. Today, it appears the targets were work sites where people were working. And again, we want to get more information about those things, and we have not been able to gather very much of it. Our coverage here of necessity is going to have to end because this helicopter requires fuel and we are running low on it. There's a view of downtown Los Angeles where somewhere among those buildings in Chinatown, a number of federal agents have been staging in a parking lot there. They've been